difficulties of the traffic and the situation with the continued rains. Again, my name is J Ernst, and I'm a regional advisor for the Office of U.S. Foreign Disaster Assistance, part of the U.S. Agency for International Development. And I've specifically come this week to look at the flood situation and the landslides affected populations, and look at the situation here in Sri Lanka to assess the response and to look at areas where we can cooperate and support the Sri Lankan people at this time. So it's a brief visit, but it's been a very fruitful one, and I appreciate the opportunity. My remit is all of South Asia. I'm a regional advisor. I do focus on disaster risk reduction, but also disaster response and disaster management. I think my first response in this region was the Gujarat earthquake. So I had some time here in the region, and I've come to, my first time in Sri Lanka was 2001. And I would like to thank my hosts, although it's the U.S. Embassy as well as the government of Sri Lanka. They really facilitated my visit in terms of allowing me to see the landslide affected and flood affected areas very quickly. And I have only been here a week. I have been following quite a bit of the action from Bangkok, but also here and working with my colleagues. The USAID is here as a mission and is very much involved in this, very much concerned. And I guess the first thing I would like to say is that looking at the landslide and visiting the affected population there, really, it is touching, and I think we were all affected by that. It's very tragic, and express our condolences to all of those affected. We know that many more have been affected throughout the country. This was very widespread and affected many people, and it was also very fast in its coming, and we appreciate the complexity with that. And share our condolences again for anyone who's been affected. And in many ways, all of you have been touched, and I appreciate your coming here today and talking with me. I'm a civil engineering hydrologist technically, so I don't usually get much attention from the media, but so forgive me, but I am a disaster management specialist. I've been focusing on that for many years, including management. And again, also have had the opportunity to work with organizations here in Sri Lanka, local organizations, universities, and the government, and have been consistently impressed by the people here. And once again, I must say, very impressed by the response that was raised locally in terms of people helping each other. And I am a disaster management professional, and I am constantly faced, I'm afraid, with sometimes the myth of this the role of professional response versus the role of citizens. And the first responder is your neighbor, it's your friend, and you've shown that in Sri Lanka very dramatically. And so I would like to commend the people of Sri Lanka for the solidarity they have expressed in terms of the response that's been, it's always for me, it's the best part of the response. I've worked with OCHA colleagues, and they'll look at me and say, yes, it's a big headache, everybody's everywhere doing all these things, but I feel good because needs are being covered. And that's the way, my first impression is that needs, as soon as they're identified, are addressed quite effectively, and that's really all of you. And also, I have been, well, I guess maybe I'll shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the U.S. government response thus far. And we have provided $187 million, $1.3 million US dollars for both immediate response, but primarily for what's been identified as the need now, since the way the people of Sri Lanka and many of the other organizations have done such a good job addressing these immediate life-threatening issues, that now it's more the longer-term recovery of water supply, sanitation, hygiene, making sure that you don't have issues with health down the road. So that's really been a lot of our focus here. We're very committed to that approach. Most of our resources are going through local organizations. That's our plan, to work with local organizations over the longer term to build both to help the recovery for water and sanitation, and also ideally, whenever possible, to make that water the water supply and sanitation resilient to future disasters. So that's been our focus. And our strategy for Sri Lanka, as well as the rest of the region, has been about working with local capacities. Because one thing about South Asia, and Sri Lanka is no exception, is there's tremendous capacity within the country. And there's also tremendous vulnerabilities in parts. And so we're faced with that everywhere. We take advantage of that whenever we can. So we see this as a real collaboration. And then lastly, one of the areas that these disasters also present is an opportunity to do better. And I must say my experience with the government of Sri Lanka and technical agencies this time is a strong willingness to look at what worked, what didn't work, and to try to improve. And there's some very difficult challenges in a disaster of this magnitude. And so we've had specific conversation, looking at opportunities where we can collaborate technically to improve response, improve early warning, to improve landslide management, and to improve really all of the aspects, even psychosocial supports. We've had these discussions, and we look forward to a long collaboration. Our collaboration with the Sri Lankan government on disaster management goes back well before I first came to the region in 2000. We've had small programs, and a lot has been done. A lot of improvements have been made. We had a very big response during the tsunami, as you're aware, and again, the U.S. and the international community all coming together in that support, and we're continuing that cooperation and collaboration. Sri Lanka has, and the entire region has developed substantially. There's a lot more that can be taken advantage of. The private sector, the public sector, the universities, just tremendous capacity out there. And one thing I will say in this one-week visit is I've been met with a genuine openness on the part of the government to work with others, to recognize that more needs to be done, and to work with universities, to work with civil society to try to really improve future response to increased resilience. And so I really I'll leave in a way with one. It's a bit of a technical piece, I suppose. Not so technical, but I think very germane to the media. In the United States, our National Weather Service has described early warning as a public good that's provided through the private sector, the media. And so we all have a role in this issue. The public has a role. The government has a role, and the media has a role to increase understanding and reduce risk. This is a complex problem, and especially when we look at the urban problem, as well, in fact, as the landslide problem. Urban flooding with rapid urbanization, we know that people are living in areas that simply can't be made safe. The water will go where the water will go, and we need to find ways to work together to make some tough decisions about where people can live, about drainage, and making sure that this works. This is difficult for any country. So again, the U.S. government is very much looking forward to this opportunity to work technically on some of these issues, and appeal to all of you to work together. Again, tough decisions about where people live, both in urban areas and in landslide-affected areas. So again, we're very much looking for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to any questions that you may have for me. Thank you.